Welcome to The Explainer. In these explainers, we take big, complex ideas and, we just break them down step by step, using the source material to guide us.
So, have you ever stopped to think about what really goes on in an economy right after a huge disaster? Like a massive earthquake or a war. Well, today, that's exactly what we're going to dig into. And we'll be looking at it through the eyes of a really powerful and, sometimes pretty controversial theory, the classical economic model.
So here's our game plan. We're going to follow 5 clear steps. First, we'll look at an economy that's in perfect balance. Then we're going to hit it with a shock and literally watch the dominoes fall, tracking the whole reaction step by step until we figure out what the new normal looks like.
Okay, let's jump right in. Look, before we can really understand what happens when an economy breaks, we first have to get a handle on how it works when everything's running smoothly, right? And in economics, there's a word for this ideal state. They call it equilibrium. All right, so first up, let's talk about the supply side. Now, the term aggregate supply sounds kind of technical, doesn't it? But really, all it means is the total, absolute amount of stuff, goods and services that an entire country can produce. We're talking every car, every cup of coffee, every single haircut. It's the whole shebang. And this is where the classical model is actually pretty neat, I think. It's so elegant and simple. It basically says that all that productive power, that Y you see there for output, it all just boils down to a function of 2 main things. Just 2. You've got K for capital, so think factories, machines, roads, and L for labor. All of us, the people doing the work. Okay, so that's one side of the coin. On the other side, you've got aggregate demand. It's pretty simple. If supply's all the stuff we can make, demand is all the stuff we're all willing to buy. It's just the total of everything that we as consumers, plus businesses, plus the government, decide to spend money on. And when the amount we make perfectly matches the amount we buy, bam, that's that perfect equilibrium we were talking about.
All right, so we've got our nice, stable, perfectly balanced system. It's all running smoothly. So what do we do now? Well, let's break it. We're about to introduce what economists call an exogenous shock. And really, that's just a fancy term for some kind of sudden, destructive event that comes out of nowhere, completely from outside the economic system.
And the source material gives us a really powerful and pretty dramatic example, a massive earthquake. Think about that for a second. This isn't something like a stock market crash or, a bad government policy. No, this is a raw, physical event. It's concrete and steel breaking, and it's going to have some huge economic consequences.
Okay, now this is a really important point, so pay close attention. In this classical view, the earthquake doesn't destroy people's knowledge or their desire to go out and buy stuff. What it specifically destroys is the capital. We're talking about the physical things. Factories get flattened, roads crumble, machines are just wrecked. So going back to our simple little equation, that K variable, it has just taken a massive, massive hit.
So the question is, what happens next? With a huge chunk of the country's tools and infrastructure just gone, what does that do to its ability to actually produce things? Well, that brings us right to the immediate reaction on the supply side.
The logic here is actually pretty straightforward, right? If you have fewer factories and fewer machines, you simply can't make as much stuff as you did before. Doesn't matter what the price is. And if you were to draw this on a graph, you'd see the whole aggregate supply curve shift inward, to the left. It's a really clear visual sign that the economy's total potential output has just shrunk. Okay, and this is where things get really interesting. This is where the model just comes to life. That first hit to our ability to supply things, that's just the first domino to fall. It sets off this incredible chain reaction that's going to ripple through the whole economy. So let's watch it happen. This lays out the whole sequence perfectly. Let's just walk through these dominoes one by one. Okay, first domino, the earthquake hits, so capital, the K, falls, bam. Second domino, because we have less capital, our aggregate supply shifts left. We just can't produce as much. Domino 3, prices, P, go up. Why? Well, you've got the same amount of money in everyone's pockets, but now it's chasing fewer goods, so everything gets more expensive. That leads to domino 4. The real money supply goes down. Because prices are higher, every single dollar you have now buys less than it did before, which pushes over domino 5. Interest rates R rise. Because real money is now scarcer, it becomes more expensive to borrow it. And that triggers the final domino, number 6, investment, I, falls. I mean, it makes sense, right? If it costs more to borrow money, businesses are going to pull back on big projects like building new factories or buying new equipment.
Let's just pause on that one idea for a second, because it's so important. The real money supply. It's a really simple but incredibly powerful concept. It's not about the number of dollar bills floating around. That's M. It's about what those dollar bills can actually buy you. And that, of course, depends on the general price level, P. So when prices, P, shoot through the roof, the real purchasing power of the money in your wallet just plummets.
So, all the dominoes have fallen. The dust has settled a bit. After all that, the initial shock, the chain reaction, where does the economy end up? What does this new normal actually look like? This table really gives us a stark before and after picture. And the outcome is pretty clear. The economy is now smaller. Its total output is just lower. At the very same time, prices are higher. And with a smaller economic pie to go around, and borrowing being more expensive, it's no surprise that both consumption, what we buy, and investment, what businesses build, have both dropped off.
Okay, and here we get to a really fascinating and honestly kind of surprising part of the classical model. Get this. Despite the absolute catastrophe, the economy on its own finds its way back to full employment. That means everyone who wants a job has a job. But, and this is the crucial but, they are all less productive now. Why? Because they have less capital to work with, fewer tools, damaged factories. So the bottom line is, the nation as a whole is poorer, but everyone is still working.
This quote right here, this gets to the absolute core of the classical view. When it says there's no short run, what does that actually mean? Well, it means this whole model is built on the assumption that things like wages and prices are perfectly flexible. They can adjust on a dime. So there's no long, messy transition, no painful recession. The market just snaps, almost instantly from the old equilibrium to the new one.
And all of this leads us to the final, and let's be honest, pretty provocative question that this model forces us to ask. If markets are really this good at self-correcting, if they can take a massive hit like an earthquake and find a new stable balance all by themselves, then what's the role for, say, the government? Should they intervene at all? It's a huge fundamental question that really gets to the heart of so many economic debates, and it's definitely one we are still wrestling with today.